Last lesson of Credit Recovery American History, Unit 7, Lesson 3. We're going to explore some terrorist groups today. So as always, make sure you listen to the causes and effects and just try to think, how does all this make a huge challenge for the United States? So again, that's what you're listening for. So where we left off, we started talking about this group of people that were once called the Mujahideen and then eventually become the Taliban, and this was their government. This is who controlled the ways of life inside of Afghanistan. And you're going to notice that they are ones that are going to follow the Sunni Muslim law. And this is probably a little bit deeper than what you really need to know, but they are ultra conservative. And if I had to make a comparison to something that everybody would know, I would kind of call them like the Amish of the Muslim faith, I guess you would say. But where this all kind of comes back to bite us is that how they treat their people and with the laws of Islam is what kind of fosters terrorism, I guess you would say, and kind of perks their interest. So here's where we're going to start. The Taliban were once called the Mujahideen. True or false? So here are a few examples of what the Taliban kind of believed in. And you notice that all of this is restricting personal freedoms, things that we take for granted here in the United States. Talking about banning what they could watch, banning what they could listen to, talking about what they could read and banning certain things like that. And anybody that basically converts from Islam to any other religion, for example, Christianity, are going to be executed. So, where it got even worse is for the women. You're going to notice that how they treat their women is basically barbaric in a way. So, they're talking about how women were banned from working outside of the homes. You're talking about what they were able to do in public. They couldn't go outside by themselves. And you're going to notice that they had to be with a male figure of their family. So, this is brother, this is husband, old son, whichever. They were banned from going to school. They had to wear these things called burqas, which is like a really long veil, which you see right here. And they could not show any sort of skin with fear of being beaten in public by any dude that saw them. They couldn't basically have any sort of fun. And when you go to the extreme, you're going to notice that they can't even wear cosmetics, even though they can't even see it. But if they're caught wearing it, they get beaten. And you see the example here, nail polish. If caught, your fingers are cut off. So that's kind of where the huge, I guess, undervalued part of the women comes in. And you're going to notice that they can't even wear anything that's a sexually attractive color. It's mostly blues that they can wear. But to the extreme, underneath Taliban rule, women had it worse in treatment. Here's an example of how bad it got. So again, this is a picture of a woman that was basically under Taliban rule. She wanted to learn how to read. So what happened is that her own husband and their family cut her nose off and cut her ears off. So just take a second and look at this. This is why we basically did what we did. But this story has a happy ending. U.S. soldiers that were on patrol basically found her and they saved her life. They were able to take her to a military institution, and where they were able to keep her alive. And then throughout the course of time, we were actually had to have cosmetic surgery to restore her nose, restore her ears, so she looks, kind of like her old self. But again, her own family did this because of wanting to learn how to read. That could show you, again, the extreme of the Taliban rule. So where the Taliban and Al-Qaeda comes back into play and equals terrorism, again, is because of that religious law, where one group of band of Islamic followers are basically helping another band of Islamic followers. And they're going to together wage war against anyone that is deemed a threat. So here are some attacks of the Al-Qaeda rise to power. Now, again, we knew about this, but as you can see from this list, we had other things on our plate that it wasn't really the top attention. Okay, it didn't really catch our attention until obviously 9/11. But if you look at the different attacks at the top, you can kind of correspond it with the timeline that's at the bottom. So these are all the things that are happening in the United States, kind of around the same time. So, again, if we're pressed with what's happening in the United States compared to what's happening in the world, you kind of need to keep that in perspective. And then this is obviously, like I said, the 9/11 stuff. And we've already talked about this in lesson 1, so this would be a refresher in case you haven't, you forget about it. But when you notice that when 9/11 happened, the whole world is going to be shocked. The whole United States is going to be left in awe. And you're going to notice that these pictures, tell the tale pretty well. But stop and think. Which best describes why Al Qaeda wasn't an immediate threat in the United States? So finally, it all comes to a winding end, I guess you would say, but it still kind of carried on and lingered around for a while after we captured Osama bin Laden. So it was captured and happened by SEAL Team 6. This is our Special Forces unit. We found where he was in Pakistan. We're able to invade his compound and basically take him out. And how did we do that? This group of people here, you see down here, were able to land successfully in his compound, raid in, and basically kill him. So how did they do that? They had the latest and the greatest technology that nobody in the world knew that we had. Stealth helicopters were able to not only land undetected, but when we flew over the city in Pakistan, I can't remember what it is, very little people even noticed. And if you go back and if you want to trace it, you can actually find the tweets that were being sent from people inside of the city saying, what was that noise? Who hears that humming? And they're basically hearing these helicopters. But what was interesting is that when they were landing inside the compound, there's 2 of them. One actually had massive electronic failure for some unknown reason, and it added another element to the mission. We had to blow that helicopter up because we did not want other people to get that basically technology. But when we went go raiding in, when we found Osama bin Laden, we weren't able to visually confirm him until after he was dead. But when we went inside his bedroom, he actually grabbed one of his wives, one of his 6 wives, and used her as a human shield. And he threw her at the Navy SEAL person that was in the room while he made his way towards his gun to basically defend himself. But after we shot this person, we basically had to visually identify him, which is what we did. And the funny story behind it is that we were supposed to basically confirm him with taking his height. We knew that he was 6'4", and we had somebody lay down next to him because the person forgot the tape measure, I guess you would say. But this was all in an action that was planned out by Barack Obama. This was one of his first and top priorities when he became president, that we had to find him and take him out to make the world a safer place. And he basically gave the green light to all of it. And the picture at the top here is him watching the live stream from the Navy SEALs taking him out. And after everything was carried out, he quietly just said to himself, we got him, went up, and he went to bed because all this was happening at night. And then you could watch this. Okay, so again, talked about the raid itself, but now we have a bigger problem. Now we have Osama bin Laden's body. What are we going to do with it? We actually got a hold of a couple other countries, said, hey, would you be interested in having it? But everybody turned us down because nobody wanted to create a shrine to terrorism. So what we did is we practiced the Muslim the death rites. We purified his body, we washed it, and then we buried him at sea. We threw him off the deck of this aircraft carrier here called the Carl Vinson. So it was all done according to Islamic law. Like I said, there was no disrespect to it, but he currently is probably at the bottom of the ocean somewhere. So was terrorism over after we took out Osama bin Laden? Absolutely not. I cannot stress this enough, but terrorism is a belief. You cannot defeat terrorism fully. You can only take out the people that believe it. But unfortunately, just like fire, it all spreads. So, true or false, when bin Laden was killed, the war on terror was over.